Hello everyone, I welcome you all here today on the behalf of Microbios India team. Before we take this session ahead, let me take the opportunity to introduce myself first. My name is Kusum Pal and I'll be your moderator. I'm honored to be hosting this session today. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to today's webinar on genomic industry and key role to play in the era of pandemics. Today our special guest is Dr. Yashwant Chavan, who is Technical Director at Genome Biotechnologies. He currently works on human molecular diagnostic research and development projects with special focus on infectious disease. He has published 10 research papers in international journals and has over 200 gene bank accessions. Before I hand the mic over to Dr. Yashwant, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. Firstly, we have something for our audience. At the end of webinar, we will be providing you free copy of June month Microbios magazine. Secondly, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session. Next, we love to hear from you during today's session. You can raise your question through Q&A tab. At the end of session, we have dedicated 5 minutes for interaction.
Within a short span of time, like from 11th to 23rd of January, and they sampled 585 environmental specimens from Wuhan market and tested them. And they found that 33 of those specimens were having the novel coronavirus. And then later on, the CEPI, which is the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, it funded 3 companies for development of vaccine for this particular pathogen, and rest of the world went into the pandemic as the virus started flowing from China to other countries. So you can see that there was a shorter window for even the scientists working in China to find out the virus, its identification of the virus, devising the diagnostic test, and then trying to find out the mechanism by which the virus spreads from one person to another person. So all these things were feasible because we applied genomic tools in the research, and that is how genomics has helped us in identifying the novel coronavirus. The transmission events from the genomic data were inferred using the high throughput sequencing studies. So outbreak isolate was first carried to the laboratory, DNA sequencing was done, and using the sequence data, whatever sequence was generated was aligned with the other viruses, and we were able to find out that this sequence matches closely to the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus, which is a lineage of coronavirus family, and there it matches with the SARS-CoV-1, but it is different than the earlier virus. That is why they have named it as a novel coronavirus. Now, how genomics can help us in identifying such threats in advance? So for that, there needs to be an alert system in place. And if there can be any alert system in place, that would definitely be based on genomic data. That can be called as pandemic interception system. And world has now envisaged that there is a need to establish a global genomic-based biosurveillance platform that can give us an alert in advance that these are the viruses, these are the hosts and reservoirs which may be further getting us into trouble of pandemics. There are certain projects currently ongoing in the world, like BioScan, which allows us to forecast changes in the biodiversity in response to the anthropogenic drivers. There is one more project known as EBP, or Biogenome Project, that characterizes all genomes from eukaryotic biodiversity from Earth, and Global Virome Project, which started in 2020. All these projects in collaboration, if they generate the information, you can see that they will be able to identify the zoonotic viral threats, and we would be able to, in advance, develop the diagnostic test. We will be able to have the sequence data, we will be able to have the host pathogen interaction studies, and we can probably have the vaccine prototypes ready in advance, even before the pandemic appears. And the approach for such alert system can be large-scale sequencing projects. For example, I can say we can screen the population of all 15,000 birds and mammal species because they are the primary hosts for pathogens and they are most likely to infect humans. Use the high throughput sequencing technologies to find out all types of bacteria and viral pathogens present in these animals and birds, and deposit those sequences to a public repository. So as you know, there is one public repository already developed, for Global Initiative on Sharing of All Influenza Data, GISAID. So when the SARS-CoV-2 was first published, it was deposited in GISAID. And whoever currently generating the sequence data, they are depositing their sequences in this database. Similar type of database for different types of viruses should be there, and that data can be used by scientists across the world to generate these type of devices to tackle the pandemics and to remain alert about the future pandemics. So a future model for surveillance and early outbreak response will definitely be based on the genomics workout. Here we need to collect samples across the globe from different types of habitats, different species, and figure out the bacterial and viral pathogens present in these animals or birds. Using the sequencing data, we can devise the strategies as earlier discussed. We can have the diagnostic test, vaccine, as well as the post-pathogen interaction knowledge in hand, even before the pandemics. Now, what happens if there is no active surveillance or such type of other system in place? I'll show you two news items. One is from 5th of May, which is a recent one. So, if you know, in France, the first official report of coronavirus COVID-19 was reported on 24th of January, wherein two people who had a history of travel to Wuhan, China, got infected and were reported. But when the scientists from France, they used the previously archived samples in their laboratories having similar type of symptoms for COVID-19 detection. They found that one of the patients responded to the test, he came positive, and the patient was treated on 27th of December. So even before 24th of January, before these two individuals, a patient earlier had this type of infection in France. And they missed the gap between 27th December to 24th January to track down the cases that were there. So if there is no active surveillance, there are no devices or tools and diagnostic methods available in hand, we would miss such type of window that is given by pandemics for us to remain prepared to fight against it. Even if you look at the other slide, wherein I have mentioned the zoonotic diseases outbreak in India, you can see that there are multiple bacterial and viral diseases which are appearing and reappearing, which is known as emerging and re-emerging in India after a few years, and we don't have any kind of alert surveillance system in place to tackle those infections and outbreaks. So if there would be a system, that would definitely help us. Moving on to our next session, which was related to the genomics of virus. So if you do sequencing, the whole genome sequence of the virus, what kind of information we would be able to get? So I'll explain you with the help of the current COVID-19 related virus sequence. So when the COVID-19 virus was sequenced, it was found that this virus is having 91.02% similarity to the pangolin covy at the whole genome level. However, if we select separate regions from this particular virus, and if we try to match, it was showing closest relation with the bat virus. So either bat virus was the one, the bat was the original reservoir of this virus, and then there was an intermediate host like pangolin, and after that the virus has jumped onto humans with certain modifications. This information can be inferred. There are 5 amino acids in the RDB region which are consistent between pangolin as well as SARS-CoV-2. So that again confirms us on our hypothesis that pangolin was the closest relative of the COVID-2 that is there in the humans. But there is one specific feature of this virus. In humans, this virus is having a cleavage site for proteases known as RRAR. It lies between 687th amino acid to 689th amino acid. This particular cleavage site is absent in bat as well as pangolin coronavirus. So from where this has come, or whether the virus has evolved during transfer from pangolin to human, that question is still unanswered. The genomics of virus helps us in tracing the geographical spread. In this slide, you can see that this paper was published by Foster et al. In March. So the virus originated from China. You can see yellow colored circle on the slide. From there, it has evolved and it has spread across various countries in the globe, like East Asia, USA, Canada, Europe, Australia, Mexico, and Brazil. And if you see the evolution of this virus in comparison to the original virus in bat, it is much distantly placed than the rate at which it has evolved. So we are missing the link between bat to human, like how the virus has evolved to this particular journey. There are three variants of the virus that are there: A, B, and C. And you can see that A and C are significantly present outside East Asia, whereas B is present in the East Asia. So this kind of variation in the genetic makeup of the virus is also found using the genomic sequence data, and this is very useful information. Again, there is one more project going on known as NextStrain. This particular project, it keeps on tracking of the pathogen evolution. So whatever sequence is getting generated and deposited in the database, it will be picked up by this NextStrain tool, and they are generating the evolutionary tree of this particular virus. So with the tree that is available as per April 22nd, you can see that there are multiple mutations in the SARS-CoV-2, and the rate estimate of the substitution is 24.22 per year. It means for the period of 1 month, the virus has 2 bases mutations into it. Okay, and this is how it is getting evolved. It is trying to adapt itself in the human itself. And the changes that are there are either synonymous or non-synonymous changes, but they are not having any significant impact on the virulence as such. So virus is adapting to human with these changes. Using the sequence data, we can find out the distribution of the circulating strains. So this particular image, you can see for a different country, there is a different lineage or different clade of virus that you can see. So we can map the geographical distribution of the viruses and its strains using the sequence data. And this information is much informative and essential in order to track the spread of virus as well as to reach to the origin. And now this is much evident and well known to everyone that the virus originated at China and then it has spread across the globe. If you look at the various strains that are circulating, there are strains like A1, A2, and B. So initially, if you see in the month of March, for the first 2 weeks, only A2 strain was there, A2A1 and A2A2. And after that, the virus has mutated and it has evolved into multiple haplotypes. And with the time progressing, the virus is now occupying the space such that each strain is having almost equal presence in the population. So tracking the spread of the virus is also feasible using the genomics tools. This was all about the sequencing of virus and the type of information that we get from that. Now, even the sequencing of humans, the host animals, is also necessary. Why? Because it will give us information about the candidate genes, the genes that can play important role in infection susceptibility and severity. As we all know, in case of COVID-19, some certain group of population is vulnerable, and some part of the population is not that much affected by the viral infection. So why there is a difference in how the virus acts in two different individuals, that needs to be figured out. And for that, we need to study the host genome. In case of SARS and MERS outbreaks, there was a project launched to identify the super spreaders using the host genome sequencing only. So currently in this pandemic situation, real-time studies are possible using the patient pools, like patients who are having cardiac type of issues and who are responding the treatment, who are not responding the treatment, who are recovering, who are not recovering. This kind of pools can be prepared and their host genome, their SNPs and everything will be studied, and we will be trying to find out the actual cause of the variation in the response. So this type of host genomics initiatives are also there currently. Research publications have suggested that ACE2 receptor-related genetic variation, interleukin-6, HLA, and blood groups. These are found to be having the risk factors in case of COVID-19 for severity. There is a project known as Global COVID-19 Host Genetics Initiative, which is started to generate, share, analyze, and to learn genetic determinants of COVID-19 for susceptibility, severity, and outcome. Further, certain industry initiatives are also there, like Genomics England partnered with Illumina for sequencing of 35,000 patients, in which they categorically going to analyze 15,000 mild symptomatic patients and 20,000 patients who require intensive care. And from this project, already 20,000 samples have been sequenced, and the data generated would be valuable for the entire world in order to understand why the variation is there. So this particular project known as COVID-19 HG is being conducted at multiple locations across the globe. India is one of the locations wherein this project is going on. The Mumbai is the center wherein it is being conducted. This information will help us in finding out the genetic determinant of COVID-19 susceptibility. This will help us in finding out the personalized medicine, and also it will contribute to the global knowledge of the biology of this particular virus. As already mentioned, the ACE2 genetic polymorphism is found to be having some kind of role in the disease severity. And this has puzzled many scientists and healthcare professionals. So while this could be explained by many factors, there is a hypothesis that mutations in a person's genetics could affect how they react to the disease and their chances of surviving it. In this picture, you can see that whenever in normal case, angiotensinogen 1 is converted into 2 and then it binds to ACE2 receptor, gives the protective signals to the cells, and normal function of the human body is conducted. Whereas whenever there is an infection, the spike protein from the SARS-CoV-2, it goes and binds to the ACE2 receptor. And because of which ANG2 starts accumulating in the body. And this accumulating ANG2 goes and binds to one more receptor known as ATR1R, which passes on pro-inflammatory signals that leads to the organ damage, hypertension, cardiovascular remodeling, and severe other complications. So this can be one of the mode of operation of this particular virus. Now, why certain people or some group of population suffers severely than other, that needs to be found out. So when studied further, it was found that ACE2 is actually having multiple isoforms. There are 4 isoforms. So 4 different chains can be produced in human body based on the genetics. So out of these 4, which one is more susceptible, which one is less susceptible and severe to the COVID-19 needs to be figured out. And for that, host genomic studies will give us certain valuable information. And these studies are currently ongoing. There are genomics companies that are also driving in such studies. For example, 23andMe. So 23andMe have started retrospective analysis of history and genomic data and infection severity in individuals who already have the genomic data. This company has enrolled more than 500,000 of its customers onto a study to find potential genetic association related to the severity of coronavirus symptoms. So such type of correlation studies will also give us important information. They are using the artificial intelligence software to work on this data, and working on whole genome data is mandatory. So they are not going with the targeted gene or candidate gene approach. They will not study only few genes like ACE2 or IL6. They will go with all the genes so that we should not skip the important data, and we will come up, we might come up with a different finding than what presumed. One more company known as Sophia Genetics, it has also developed an AI-based platform that analyzes the raw data and it helps clinicians to diagnose the patient betterly. Sophia Genetics has worked on cancer genomics, and using the AI, they have devised a tool such that a patient can be given precise medicine based on the previous patient's history who were already treated. Similar kind of algorithm they have incorporated here using the genome of COVID-19 as well as the host genome. They are able to identify the patterns and they are looking for a combination of data points so that they can predict the clinical outcome of a patient. So using this AI platform, they can give recommendations to the patient for treatment using the previous results. So this kind of tool, if it is in the hands of doctor, it will give them a good guiding platform to understand like what kind of treatment is required to be given to a particular patient. So this all information is driven by the genomics data that is available in the backend. Further, so as to handle such pandemic situations, we need to accelerate the precision medicine research also. As this situation of pandemic, it leaves little time in hand for us in repurposing the drugs and getting into trials. We ideally should have the in advance information in hand with us about all the available drugs, their mode of action, their pharmacogenomics, so that these drugs, when they would be used against a particular pathogen, people already know that whether this drug will help them or this drug will not help them in, in order to fight against this particular information. So as to remain prepared in such pandemic situations, the global community is required to accelerate the precision medicine research so that the population gets benefit of these type of availabilities through genomic studies. Moving on to the next part, wherein the genomics is playing important role, is the vaccine research. Now you know that when the virus spread from one host to another host, it may change its certain characteristics as well as there is a genetic change. So when the first isolate was there from China, now there has been multiple circulating clusters of the virus. In each country, there is a different type of strain. So there are mutations in the strains that are currently circulating in the population. Now, which strain should be used for devising or for developing a vaccine? That also needs to be found out. Which strain is better for a good vaccine candidate? So this can be found out using the genomics tools. We can find out which region of the genome is being used for developing the vaccines, what region is going to get into the vaccine manufacturing, and based on the variations, a good candidate can be found out. Even if the vaccine strain is found out, now the choice of the animal models as well as cell lines, like whether to take trials in rabbits or to take trials in mice, and what kind of cell line is to be used, all those choices will depend upon the genomics of the viral strain as well as genomics of human. And here also the genomics research supports in finding out the right virus candidate for development of vaccines. So this particular data published by Bauer et al. In May 2020, they were able to show that as the virus passes from one human to another human, it has started accumulating certain mutations. And there are mutations which makes the strain less virulent. There are mutations that makes the strain more virulent. And of these, the strain that should go for the vaccine manufacturing should be selected such that it is most virulent strain, so that the vaccine serves its purpose of protecting the individuals against the viral threats. So if you look at the current array of vaccines that are being prepared, there are viruses, inactivated or weakened viruses being used. Replicating viruses like viral vectors are being used. There are DNA or RNA based vaccines also being developed. And there are certain vaccines that are protein based, protein subunits are used. In all these types of viruses, viral vaccines, the vaccine is developed using the genetic characterization. Genetic data is key in any kind of vaccine that is getting into development. Only on that basis the characterization will be done, and then only vaccine will be getting into the next phase. So that is how even the genomic data is helping us in vaccine research, development, and launching it for the common public's use. So this is how, as summarized earlier, we have went through the various routes and various applications that genomics has given in order to fight the pandemics. So you must understand that in such pandemic situations, genomics data and genomics industry have remained strong, and they have helped us in fighting the pandemic through the diagnostic methodologies, through the sequence data, and by guiding us to right vaccine, right drug, and right kind of approach in treating the patients. So this was all about the presentation. I think I'm well within the time. So if you have any questions, you can ask, and even you can write down your question so that I can answer you. Thank you. Yes, anyone has question? Yeah, are you able to get me? Yeah. Hello. Yes. Tell me. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Okay. So I guess there is no question coming up. Fine. Hope you have enjoyed the session and got the information. This was a small attempt in order to introduce you to the role that genomics has played in fighting against the pandemic and how it can help us in bettering the situation ahead. Thank you all for joining.